was playing a few Tommy Flanagan licks from his solo over the changes to the Charlie Parker tune Confirmation. This comes from his 1977 Enya recording of the same name. George Mraz is on bass and Elvin Jones is on drums. You can click the album cover below to buy the MP3 or the disc of this album. There's a lot of good tunes on it, including How High the Moon and It Never Entered My Mind. Highly recommended to add to your collection. If you've studied jazz at all, you have probably already heard about 2-5-1 progressions. Nearly every jazz teacher starts out new students with these progressions. If you look through any jazz method book, here are 3 particularly good ones. You will read about them. Jamie Aebersold has a good 2-5-1 play along, and his catalog is full of books and recordings on 2-5-1s. And the reason for this is that most of the chords to any given jazz tune, pop tune, or standard tune are part of a 2-5-1 progression. Here's a quick example. This is the bridge to Confirmation. This is the section that I was playing in the intro. If I erase the notes so that you can concentrate on the chords, by the way, the licks that I was playing are available in the practice sessions, so don't worry about having to copy them down here. So, of the bridge here is a 2-5-1 in B flat, and then here's one in D flat, and here is an incomplete 2-5 in F. So the whole bridge of this tune is 2-5-1s. I could go on and give you countless other examples like this. On average, about 60 to 90% of any given jazz tune is made up of 2-5-1 progressions. 2-5-1 progressions are the most common progression in jazz. They're the DNA of jazz, really, because they make up the harmonic basis for the majority of the chords in bebop and post-bebop music. So they're critical to know about and to understand if you're going to play jazz. That's what I want to do in this lesson. I want to show you what a 2-5-1 progression is and how to identify them in tunes. You'll have a chance to take a couple of quizzes during the lesson, and at the end you can practice building and playing these progressions with the included practice sessions and play-along files. If you have any questions, you can click on the question mark in the blue title bar above to ask a question via instant chat or email. So what is a 2-5-1 progression? Let's look at the anatomy of a major 2-5-1 progression. There's 3 elements to consider, and they are chord quality, harmonic rhythm, and root motion. I'll talk about each one of those separately. First of all, chord quality. Looking at the bridge of Confirmation, again, here is the 2-5-1 in B flat major that I already pointed out. So a 2-5-1 is a chord progression of 3 chords, the 2 chord, the 5 chord, and the 1 chord. The Roman numerals indicate the scale degree of the parent major scale that each chord is built from, and that's where the progression gets its name, 2-5-1. So this progression is a 2-5-1 in B flat. Notice that the 1 chord is a B flat major 7, so that's where the name of the progression comes from. You refer to it by the name of the 1 chord. So the 1 chord is a B flat, so this is a 2-5-1 in B flat. So this being a 2-5-1 in B flat, all of the chords will come from the B flat major scale. As my B flat major scale, the 2 chord is going to be built off of the 2nd note of the B flat major scale, the 2nd degree of the B flat major scale, C. 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 chord is built off of the F, and the 1 chord is built off of the 1st note of the B flat major scale. You can see that you need to be able to spell major scales in order to understand major 2-5-1 progressions. So pause the video now and take this quiz on spelling major scales. Chord symbols written above the staff identify each chord. So a 2-5-1 in B flat is composed of 3 chords, C minor 7, F7, and B flat major 7. So the chord quality of each is minor 7, dominant 7th, and major 7 in that order. I've realized these chord symbols in this example with root position chords. The chords are built in thirds, every other note from their root. So the 2 chord is built on the 2nd note of the B flat major scale, and the chord is built in thirds, every other note of the scale. So the 2 chords C, E flat, G, B flat. This is C minor 7. The 5 chord starting on the 5th note of the B flat major scale in thirds, F, A, C, E flat, F dominant 7th. And the 1 chord built on the root in thirds is B flat major 7, B flat, D, F, and A. If these chords are new to you, or if you don't know how to build these chords, check out the 5 Essential 7th Chords lesson to learn about them. I'll build another 2-5-1, this time in D flat, starting with the D flat major scale. 7 different notes. I'm going to build a chord on the 2nd degree of the scale. This is my 2 chord E flat minor 7. Moving up to the 5th note of the scale, this is my 5 chord A flat dominant 7th, and down to the 1 chord is D flat major 7. So a 2-5-1 in D flat is E flat minor 7, A flat dominant 7th, and D flat major 7. Sometimes 2-5-1 progressions are just called 2-5s without the 1, because these progressions are often incomplete, meaning that they don't have the 1 chord present. And this is what we see in the last 2 measures of the bridge of confirmation here. This is a 2-5 in F, G minor 7 to C7, and there's no 1 chord, so this could be just called 2-5. Often people refer to 2-5-1s as 2-5s whether or not the 1 chord is present, so you can call them 2-5s, 2-5-1s, however you want to call it. So the take-home about this section is that the chord qualities of a major 2-5-1 progression is a minor 7, dominant 7th, major 7th chord, in that order. The 1 chord, I've written it as major 7 so far, but you will see it written as a major 6 chord, or even just as a triad, so be aware that you may encounter those chord symbols. Harmonic rhythm is the pulse of the chords, where the chords occur in each measure, what beats they occur on, and how long. 2-5-1s occur in symmetric groupings of 2 or 4 measures, with the 1 chord lasting as long, twice as long as the 2 and 5 chords. So the first 2 2-5-1s in the bridge here are 4-measure 2-5-1s. The 2 and the 5 chords get 1 measure each, and the 1 chord gets 2 measures. The last 2-5 is a 2-measure 2-5-1. If it were complete, you'd see the 1 chord lasting for a whole measure, and the 2 and the 5 chord lasting for 2 beats each. So the harmonic rhythm of a major 2-5-1 is usually in 2 or 4 measure groupings, with the 1 chord lasting twice as long as the 2 and the 5 chords. Let's look at root motion. This is how the roots of the chords move. Each chord in a major 2-5-1 needs to move down a perfect 5th or up a perfect 4th. Both of those intervals are equivalent. If we look at the 2-5-1 in B flat, C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, the roots of these chords descend in perfect 5th. Here's a perfect 5th. Here's a perfect 5th. If I consider the opposite of that, C to F moving up, it's ascending 4ths. This is a perfect 4th, and going up to B flat is a perfect 4th. The next measure, same thing, 2-5-1 in D flat, E flat minor 7, A flat dominant 7th, D flat major 7. They're moving in 5ths. If I consider that descending and ascending, it's 4ths. So you want to look for roots that are perfect 5th descending or a perfect 5th ascending apart. So to review, the sequence of chords that you want to look for when you're identifying 2-5-1s is minor 7, dominant 7th, major 7th. Remember, the 1 chord can be variable. It may be a major 6 or just a triad. You want to look for these chords to be moving in groups of 2 or 4 measures, and you definitely want to see the roots moving a 5th apart or a 4th apart. Pause the video now. Take this quiz on the anatomy of 2-5-1 progressions. I've shown you the bridge of the tune conformation. Here's the A section. Let's find 2-5-1s in this section of the tune. First chord is F major 7. Remember, first chord we're looking for is a minor 7. So this is not part of a 2-5-1. Next chord, minor 7 flat 5. Remember, we need a minor 7 to find 2-5-1s. But notice that this chord, along with the next two chords, fulfill the other criteria. They move in descending fifths. E minor 7 flat 5, A7 flat 9, D minor 7. These are all fifths. And it's in a two-measure grouping. Let me tell you, this is a minor 2-5-1 progression. There's two types of 2-5-1 progressions, major and minor. I'm going to talk just about major 2-5-1s in this lesson. There is an entire lesson devoted to minor 2-5-1s, so be sure to check that lesson out after you feel comfortable with major 2-5-1s. So D minor 7 is the first minor 7 chord we have encountered, so this could be the start of a 2-5-1. The next chord is dominant. This looks good so far, and the intervals of the roots are in perfect fifths. So far we have a 2-5. Notice that it resolves to the right root. We're looking for a C, a fifth below the G, but it's not a major 7, it's a minor 7. So this is just simply a 2-5 progression, not a complete 2-5-1, since it's D minor 7, G7. The next three chords, C minor 7, F dominant 7th, flat 7. This is a 2-5-1. This is the same thing we saw as in the bridge. Chord qualities are minor 7, dominant 7th, major 7th, and the roots move in perfect fifths. The one chord only lasts for one measure, not two, but the harmonic rhythm requirement is not all that strict. And the last two chords, G minor 7, C7, are also a 2-5. So if you consider all 19 chords that I've shown you as part of this tune, 17 of them are part of 2-5-1 progressions. So there's proof right there. Most of the chords are part of 2-5-1 progressions. If you want to look at the chords to another tune, pause the video now and click on the blue box, and I will take you through the chords to the tune How High the Moon. Otherwise, pause the video and click on the gray box to take this quiz on identifying 2-5-1s in tunes. The major 2-5-1 progression is a chord progression of three chords. The three chords are built from the second, fifth, and first degree of the major scale. The 2 chord is a minor 7 chord. The 5 chord is dominant 7th, and the 1 chord is a major 7th chord, or I should say a major chord could be a major 7th, major 6th, or just a triad. The chords move in descending perfect fifths or ascending perfect fourths, and 2-5-1 progressions usually occur in 2 or 4 measure phrases. 2-5-1 progressions are the most common progression in jazz. They make up a majority of the chords in any given tune. How does this help you play jazz, knowing what 2-5-1s are? Aside from being able to use this information to understand the harmonic structure of a tune, knowing how to recognize 2-5-1s helps you chunk together the chords of a tune into groups of single key centers, and this is a tremendous aid in improvisation. For instance, the bridge of confirmation we saw were 4 measures of a B flat 2-5-1, 3 measures of D flat, and 1 measure of a 2-5-1 in F. So instead of seeing the bridge as 8 individual chords, you can view it as 3 key centers, and this makes it considerably easier to improvise a melody if you have to think about only 3 pieces of information instead of 8. So the 2-5-1 in B flat is going to take the B flat major scale. The 2-5-1 in D flat will take the D flat major scale, and the 2-5-1 in F will take the F major scale. So that's just why 2-5-1s are important because they are really the basis of improvisation. Click on the link in the blue title bar above to download the practice sessions, print them, and bring them to the piano. The practice sessions will take you through building and playing 2-5-1s in all 12 keys, as well as help you to identify them in tunes.